Welcome to Grounded with John Tester and Maritza Giorgio. And we are so happy this morning to be joined by Chris Cillizza, who longtime political analyst. You've been in the biz a long time, Chris. We're so happy to have you. There's just kind of a little bit to talk about.
I mean, I always say to people, like, you can, whatever you think of Trump, like, he is an absolute content machine. Like, it is just, it is.
Yeah.
I still remember, like, my first real reporting job was for this place called Roll Call Newspaper, which still exists. It was like pre
Yeah.
Politico, pre Axios, pre all that stuff. And it was like the newspaper if you cared about Capitol Hill. And I remember I was like 25. And I remember waking up every morning super nervous that there wouldn't, like, is today the day that no one tells me anything and there's nothing to report? And I
Yeah.
never really worry about that anymore. That worry has gone out the window over the years.
Well, no,
How you doing, Senator?
I'm doing good, but I noticed you got a little different background. What the hell's going on there? I mean, I don't see any Mercedes-Benz bumper sticker.
Okay, this will be good. This will be good content because I'm in Minnesota
Mm.
where my grandpa, Barry Noel's the van, did the weather. And that's why I have a BNZ license plate. That was his license plate. It wasn't a Mercedes license plate. It was his initials. But I digress. I'm in Minnesota at my friend Mary's house and
Lovely
just
background.
visiting the homeland. Yeah, she's in the biz. So she said, just use my setup. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, if that's an amateur setup, that's pretty impressive because my wife has carefully curated everything behind me, and she's always like, "You're putting too much shit back there," and I'm like,
Well,
sorry."
after Room Raider, this became, Room
Yeah.
Raider became a thing. Senator, do you know what that is?
I have no goddamn idea what room rate is.
I
You're
bet
better
you-
off for it.
It's all right.
Yeah.
So, Chris,
During COVID, they did that.
Chris, since where are you at? Are you in DC or are you somewhere exotic?
Virginia, Northern Virginia, yes.
Northern Virginia, eh?
Yep. But it is blissfully, after it being like a literal swamp for about a week, it is like, I went out this morning and it was like not terrible. It didn't make me not want to go outside again. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
not Minnesota or Montana, but
No.
it's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I take offense that you're comparing Minnesota to Montana, but it's okay. We'll overlook it this time. But I will also tell you that DC, and I could say the same thing about a lot of other towns that have the high humidity stuff. Man, it's debilitating when it gets hot. It's just
You can't go
you just
outside.
can't do it. Yeah, it hurts. It hurts.
I was on the Hill yesterday interviewing this guy named Rich McCormick, who's like a second term House member in Georgia. And it's for the show I do here. And it's about, like, it's called Politics Aside. So we like talk to politicians about like not politics. And this guy was on American Gladiator. He finished as the runner up to American Gladiator. And Maritza, I don't know how you're too young for this, I think. But the senator will remember. Do you remember that chess ad that the Marines used to run where it was like a thing and there's a Marine at the end doing the sword thing? That
I
was
remember
him.
that.
That was
That was
him.
him? Cool.
He was a helicopter pilot. He's like super into fitness. So I'm in like my dress clothes and he's got a pull-up bar on loan from the Marine Corps in his office and he's doing all these kind of wild things. He's like, "You want to knock a few out?" And I was so sweaty walking back in my car. It was brutal. I had to like burn my clothes afterward.
Yeah, I think Tester had one of those bars in his office too.
You know what? I'd take offense to that. I mean, it's Tuesday morning. It's
Just a
relatively
shot.
early on the West Coast. I mean,
Sorry, shots fired. Okay,
show a little love for old Johnny. Let's get into this.
let's get into this. There's just this small little news story that's been going on. I appreciated your timeline yesterday, Chris. I should say that, like, you have really paved the way for all of us on this like
Thank you.
independent journalism bandwagon on platforms like Substack. So thank you for that. And you put like kind of a counter on this. Yesterday you said, I think we were on day 14. So today we are on day 15 of the outrage over the latest Jeffrey Epstein saga. Of course, that all started when the DOJ came out and said, hey, there's no client list after Pam Bondi said there was one on her desk. triggered this revolt. So, I mean, I had this conversation with so many people all throughout the years, right? Access Hollywood, all of these things like, oh, this is it. This is going to kill him. Do you think that this is the end of, or at least the start of the end of MAGA, or do you think that this is just another blip?
I don't think it's the start of the end of MAGA because, like, dude, I've gone broke predicting the end of MAGA. I mean, I still remember, I remember this so distinctly. I was at the Washington Post. It was like Trump announced like in June 2015. And so this was July 2015. He was in Iowa. And he was on stage. I mean, you guys will remember this. He's on stage and he gets asked about McCain and John McCain, and he says, I like my war heroes, not captives, right? And
Yeah.
I remember writing because I was writing a blog at that point, so I was writing every single day, multiple times a day. I remember writing. I don't know if this is the exact headline, but this was definitely the sentiment. It was like Donald Trump's 1 month campaign just ended. Like that was basically
100%.
because
Yeah.
it was like in that version of the Republican Party, 2015, like whatever you thought of McCain, like he clearly served his country and suffered for it. You know what I mean? Like whether you agree with his politics or not. So I was like, oh well, it's over. Obviously 10 years later and two presidencies later, Donald Trump keeps going. So like, no, I don't think this is the end. But I also think it is probably more than a blip in that I do think it's interesting that like, look, this is the dog who caught the car. I think they spent years, whether it was, Epstein or the 2020 election or vaccines or whatever. I mean, that whole end of the party. It's actually most of the party at this point, but they spent years sort of marinating
Yeah.
in this conspiracy stuff. And it's like, oh, breaking news. You can't just like flip that switch off. Be like, oh, don't worry about it, folks. Vince Foster actually did die by suicide. You know what I mean? Like you can't, that's not how it works. And so like you're being eaten by it. Somebody sent me it's the Frankenstein and Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster. You know what I mean? Like you create this thing that then has a life of its own that you can't control anymore. So I think it's more than a blip, but like I don't golly, I feel like everybody spends so much time predicting the end of Trump. I continue to say Trumpism ain't going away until Donald Trump dies, literally, and maybe not until after that.
So, look, I'd love to know, Chris. I'd love to know your opinion on to why this is so toxic.
Yeah,
Is it toxic because they don't want to talk about tariffs anymore, or they don't want to talk about U.S. citizens being picked up and hauled off that aren't criminals? Is it toxic because there's so many things. Just go down the line because the big beautiful bill isn't that big and that beautiful, and people are figuring that out. Is it toxic because they want to pivot, or is there actually something toxic in it other than the fact that folks want to know about the deep state stuff and they're hiding the deep state stuff? Is that it in a nutshell?
I think,
Because
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just thanks, Senator. I mean, I think it is that. I mean, I think it's a classic example of like you spend years convincing people that the government and the people in Washington are all involved in some sort of like wild set of conspiracies, whether it's QAnon or Pizzagate or, I mean, literally going back to Vince Foster, in the early 1990s. Um, when you become the deep state, like I mean, look, if you know anything about Washington, you know that Republicans control the White House, the House, and the Senate, right? So it's like you are now the government,
Right.
right? And it's and Senator, you know this too. It's like your party always fights so hard to have unified control so you can do stuff. But that also means like you own everything that happened. Like there's no like, oh well, if only those nasty Republicans or those nasty Democrats would help us. Like they spent years saying, oh well, the FBI director has this client list and they're hiding this stuff because they want to hide Bill Richardson, late governor of New Mexico, and Bill Clinton's involvement, all these liberal wealthy donors' involvement. And then it'd just be like 1.5 page memo, like, oh, it's
Right.
all good, nothing to see here, folks. It just doesn't, I think it just doesn't compute, and I do think he is trying to turn it into well, this is just the media against me thing. Like, oh, I mean, the Wall Street Journal that's the one that, I mean, this is not the Huffington Post who's writing these stories, right? Like,
Right.
but I think that's why he's trying to turn it. I mean, look at we've seen in the last week, right? We've seen like the leak, which I would assume was purposeful, like, oh, the FBI is now investigating Comey and John Brennan. We've seen we need to change the commander's name back to the Redskins. I mean, like he's just throwing, the fake Obama being arrested video that he put out on Truth Social. So he's just throwing things at the wall because they don't have any good answer on the
But
Epstein
that's the
stuff.
thing
That's the
is
other
like
problem, Senator. They don't have a good answer.
he's playing his greatest hits though, and the Obama thing, I mean, they are trying. How many times have we heard him bring up Obama and Hillary and Biden about this whole thing when, I that clip of Bill O'Reilly trying to say it was Biden's fault and the anchor says no, like this, like Jeffrey Epstein was arrested when Trump was president the first time around. And I want to get your take. I mean, that whole Obama AI video, right? There's this video, if you haven't seen it, of AI generated former President Obama getting arrested in the Oval Office. Okay, so my first thought of that is, what about the presidential immunity ruling from the Supreme
Right.
Court last year? Right. And second of all, like this is all over Russian interference in 2016 and Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, saying that the Obama administration made up intelligence. But Marco Rubio at the time said there was irrefutable evidence. And we had a special counsel investigation that found no criminal, conspiracy by the Obama administration. So, like, what do you make of all those little pieces, or does it not matter? Do those little details not matter in this?
Well, they probably don't matter, but they should. I mean, I always remind people when he says the like Russia, Russia, Russia hoax, like the Republican-controlled Senate intelligence, like you want to throw out the Robert Mueller stuff? Okay, I mean, I don't think you should, but fine. The Republican-controlled Senate Intelligence Committee concluded after a lengthy investigation that Russia meddled in the 2016 election in an attempt to help Donald Trump get elected. I don't understand why that's like, I mean, I guess you could say all the Republican senators on that committee were like were rhinos or were like, but like that's a pretty big conspiracy. Like, so I don't get it. I mean, look, Donald Trump is is the realization of our attention economy, right? Like if you say something enough times, whether it's true or not, people will just start to believe it. I mean, the whole Russia, Russia, Russia hoax, it's not a hoax. I mean, Russia did try to influence the election in ways large and small to elect Donald Trump because they believed Donald Trump would be better for their near and long term interest than Hillary Clinton. No, we could debate whether they were right, and we could debate there's, it's a little shadier as did the Trump people know about that? Did they encourage it? I don't, but that
Right.
piece to me feels, but of course, like, I hate to say no one cares because I think people care, but it's just the kind of the people who are engaged at getting to those facts are not the kind of people who are sort of Trump loyalists. Like we have no common agreed upon fact set anymore. And that to me is like, I don't know. I mean, I can't even imagine serving an elected office at this point. Like, it just seems like I mean, it always seemed like a nightmare to me, having seen it up close. But it seems like even more of a nightmare now because you're having to answer all these things. It's like, well, I read on the internet that X. It's like, well, okay, but here are the facts.
But look at it from Gabbert's perspective, okay? She isn't exactly the favorite daughter right now after
Right.
saying that, Iran wasn't close to a nuclear weapon, so we bomb them anyway. She wasn't in on the decisions, from what I understand. So she's got to kind of redeem herself. So she puts out a conflated report that, quite frankly, mixes everything up that, happened 8 years ago and trying to get back into good graces. That's how I see it. I see Gabbert's going, well, geez, I might get swept out of this place, so I've got to do something stupid so that people think I'm okay.
Well, no, and you know what? Like, it's clearly that is. I always think you got to remember all these cabinet officials and most of the Republican elected officials are all playing to the audience of one, right?
Yep,
Like they don't
right.
care what John Tester, Maritza, and Chris Cillizza think.
No.
Yeah, I mean, who can they could care less? They care.
Well,
Did he see it? Did he
time out.
see it? Yeah, all right.
They do care what Maritza says. I'm just telling you.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah,
You and I,
well
we're
said.
out.
Yeah, like
Okay.
I should not lump her in with the two of us.
Nobody
That's right.
cares what I
Exactly.
say.
I just like it's all aimed at Trump. It's all performative. It's like, I mean, what I still remember, I can't remember who wrote the story, but it was a really good one. This is in his first term. They were like, people who are trying to influence Trump, Republicans, elected officials, cabinet officials, rather than have a meeting with him, they go on Fox. And I mean,
Yep.
that I think that's really revealing. And yes, that's why, look, that's why Tulsi Gabbard does what she does. That's why.
There's another reason for that, because the person who's interviewing him on Fox will probably end up in the cabinet at some point.
Exactly right. It's your best. It's certainly it's the best stepping stone.
I've got I brought this up on a previous podcast Substack. I don't remember what the hell we were doing. And people said I wasn't right, but it always worries me when a Murdoch-owned paper like the Wall Street Journal comes out with a negative article, and then Trump starts talking about suing Murdoch, which is pretty insane from my perspective, since J.D. Vance met with Murdoch about a month ago in Montana because he's got a place here in Southwest Montana. Do you think the Wall Street Journal article was a potential pivot, deception put out because we don't have to talk about the list anymore, which is what really people want to know about?
Yeah.
Or do you think it was legit?
So I've never worked at the Journal, so I don't know like how heavy a hand like Rupert has on that stuff. I mean, my experience is, he has a heavier hand than some other owners. I also, the other thing I would say is I don't know, the two people who wrote that story are not political reporters I know, which candidly, it's a pretty small world. Like you usually know, but they're not people I know. I'm also older now, and there's younger people. You know how it goes. So
Yep.
I don't know the answer to that. It I don't know. My broad take on the sort of like Trump is playing five-dimensional chess thing generally is I think that's not been borne out. Like I think Democrats give him more credit for his strategic genius than actually exists. Like I don't. I mean, one of the things. This is always so funny to me. I remember in the 2016 campaign, I was at the Washington Post and covering it. The argument all these Republicans who were not pro-Trump people would make to me is Trump's team is too stupid to coordinate with the Russians. Like they wouldn't be able to pull it off. Like they're just stupid is the wrong word. Too disorganized. Too like there's just like a bad campaign. Like they weren't coordinating with themselves, much less a rogue nation. So my general view on this stuff is that I think it's probably not some sort of like, you know, Trump concocted scheme with Rupert to distract. That said, though, Senator, I do think, I mean, I lost a bunch of subscribers saying this, but I happen to think it's true that that story on Thursday night, whenever it came out, helped Trump in that it allowed him to turn it into this is about the fake news. I'm suing them $20 billion, as opposed to why haven't you
Released.
why haven't you really, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
whether it was intentional or not, it definitely served that purpose. Now, can he keep going? I mean, I think the lawsuit is an attempt to keep driving that. I mean, Donald Trump doesn't want to go into like a real trial with the Wall Street Journal because then he's subject to discovery, and I mean, it makes no sense.
That ain't gonna happen.
No, we have to talk about what he knew about Epstein and what their relationship was under oath. I mean, it's never going to happen. It's a public thing and a political thing designed to change the story. And oh, by the way, both Disney and Paramount have paid him off on equally frivolous lawsuits. So why not? If you can get another $15 million for your presidential library, why not do it? I mean, again, just a quick reminder, he is suing them for 20 billion with a B. Like, I mean, it's just like made up money. Like, how did she arrive at that amount of money?
Right. But I mean, I think though, we going back to kind of the first question, is this kind of the beginning of the end, the big fracture? I mean, we had we had Speaker Mike Johnson last week saying like, "Oh yeah, they should release this." Well, now he is kind of walking that back
Yep.
and saying that, the administration, that the president needs space. I've been through enough counseling to know what it means when you say someone needs space. But then you also have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who put out on X yesterday, like, basically this long rant. If you tell the base of people who support you of deep state treasonous crimes, election interference, blackmail, and rich, powerful, elite, evil cabals, then you must take down every enemy of the people. So I still see this rift kind of bubbling, and it's not going in a way that we've seen past disturbances go away. Even January 6th, I mean, that certainly caused major issues inside the Republican Party, but most of the people who were outspoken about that and stayed outspoken about that are out. They're gone.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't think it's a blip. And I don't know that I've ever said this before, but I actually agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like, I mean, I think she's right about that point, which is like, if you say all these people are deeply corrupt and et cetera, and then you say, well, actually, no, that was all bullshit. I mean, yeah, like, I mean, this goes back to like one of the broader points I always make about Trump. He's in on the joke. Like the fake news thing. No one loves the media. No one pays more attention to the media than Donald Trump's not even close. He's obsessed with the media. And if you've ever had any one-on-one or close to one-on-one interactions with them, he's like incredibly solicitous. He's always like, hey, I love what you're doing. Now, there's a 0% chance he's read what I'm doing. But the point is, like,
Has he said that to you?
oh yeah, like in a note, hey, great job. I'm like,
Ah.
but my point is like, it's all bullshit. He gets the joke. He's doing the wink. Do you know what I mean? Like, can you believe they're buying this? But the thing that is really, really bad and I think dangerous is the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world aren't in on the joke. They don't know he's doing a bit. They don't know that this is all kind of like, you know, he's like a comedian. He says stuff that people respond to. So when you see him, it's like going to see the Eagles' greatest hits. They're going to play Hotel California because that's what people want to hear. He's going to say fake news. He's going to say we're going to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. Like, but this idea that Donald Trump deep down, if you gave him a lie detector test, thought Mexico was going to pay for the walls. I mean, like, of course that's not true.
Yeah.
But Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world believe it. That's where I think you're seeing that rift. It's between like the true believers, of which I don't think Donald Trump is one, weirdly, and then the people who are like, I mean, come on, he's just saying this stuff. And I think this is a weird like rubber meets road moment there, I think. Because he said all this stuff. Now, well, did he not believe it then, or does he not believe it now? I would argue he never believed it, but I think that's where you're seeing the disconnect.
So what happens in the next month? The Congress isn't going to do anything about this, and it's just going to lay there, and it's going to steam. And
well, we should talk about what happened in the House last night.
Yeah, talk about it.
So
they left, right?
Well, there was like this. I don't know the House as well as I know the Senate, Senator. I'm like you, but basically, there was this big fight that broke out right in the House Rules Committee on Monday night. So basically, put a stop to any House business this week because Dems were saying they wanted to force a vote to basically, force the administration to release the files. So, like, how do you see this all happen? Like, how do you see this, Chris? Like
Before Chris goes, I just got asked. It was strictly partisan, strictly Dems. There were no R's that wanted to have it.
Yeah, on the Rules Committee, yes. But remember, there's only like 11 people on the Rules Committee. You know what I mean? Like I think Tom Massey from Kentucky and Ro Khanna from California have 218 for a discharge petition, which is what worried. I mean, this is super nerdy arcana stuff, but basically to try to force a vote on something. And I think that's why Johnson last week said like, oh, well, we're going to do this non-binding resolution to try to end run that. I mean, I think like I remember in the 80s before there was a shot clock in college basketball and North Carolina was the best at this. I promise this will have a point.
No, you're talking his language now. Okay. He likes this. Yeah.
North Carolina was the best at this under Dean Smith. You know, they'd go up like 32-26. but there was no shot clock. So they would go to the four corners offense. They would literally put four guys in the corners of the court and one guy in the middle, and they would just pass the ball around for 4.5, 5 minutes. Well, that's what House Republicans are doing. They're basically like, all right, we're gonna bet that in 5 weeks, they leave at the end. They're basically gone now, but they leave at the end of the week. They don't come back until after Labor Day. That after that, there'll be some other story. We have very short attention spans. There'll be something else that replaces this, and then they won't have to bother with it. I mean, that's what they're doing. It's like, well, because I think what Johnson said was, well, we got to see what Pam Bondi releases in this from the grand jury testimony. There's not going to be. You think that there's some bombshell in the grand jury testimony that Pam Bondi was holding back? Like, no. What's the key is what evidence did the grand jury see, right? Like what came out,
Right.
not the testimony. So this is, they're just throwing the ball around, waste 3
Also,
or 4 minutes in a possession, and win the game by 6.
they put the word pertinent in that, pertinent information, and who gets to decide what's pertinent?
Pam Bondi.
Pam Bondi, yeah.
It's like your classic, like, we're going to hide under. There's a great scene in The Simpsons where Homer goes back to college and he doesn't study for a test, an exam. And they're like, what's your plan? And he's like, I'm just going to hide under this pile of coats until everything blows over. That's basically what they're doing. Right? I just hang out under this pile of coats and then just hope, like, when we come out, things are better. I mean, it's just, like, it seems to me transparent. But what's depressing is it'll probably work because we do have short attention spans.
Yeah, although I'm not sure if the MAGA folks stay fired up about this.
Yeah,
I mean, they tend not to forget very quickly, and
when
that's
they're
true.
outraged. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, that's what makes this one a little bit different, right? This is not Democrats in the media saying Donald Trump shouldn't have said or done X. There's been a zillion of those, and we know those don't have any appreciable impact on the MAGA base, other than maybe to make them like Donald Trump more. This is MAGA on MAGA violence in that regard. And that does make, and again, this is 15 days in, right? It's still kind of going. You do have Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she said yesterday she would sign on to that discharge petition, right? Like, whatever you think of her, she is a kind of standard bearer of that, like, hardest core MAGA base, so like when she does that, I think. And she has no influence in the House broadly, I don't think. Certainly, I mean, not on committees or anything like that. But she does have an outsized influence on kind of as a weather vane of where the kind of core MAGA people feel this.
Yep.
I think the other thing too, when people talk about how we got here and what got Donald Trump elected, I mean, we can't forget this movement outside of Capitol Hill, like on platforms like this, on podcasts, on these like viral internet people and influencers who have influenced a lot of people, especially young men. And when I see Nick Fuentes say that MAGA is the biggest, what did he call it? The biggest scam in American history. I mean, that's a huge departure for him. And I'm curious how that kind of resonates with the base.
Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn. I mean,
right.
Many of these people who helped elect Donald Trump, I mean, I always say to people my age, just because you haven't heard of them doesn't mean they don't have influence. Rogan is an exception, but like, just as one example, before 5:00 yesterday afternoon on the East Coast, I never heard of who Andrew Callahan is. This is the guy who did this long interview with Hunter Biden yesterday. So I look him up on YouTube. It's 3.2 million, probably more than that now, but 3.2 million subscribers. I mean, these people have like huge audiences and do have an impact on the conversations that are happening, not with like the average swing voter. I don't think they're out there. I mean, the reason that they're swing voters, they're not consuming this stuff usually, but with the two bases, and then that frames the broader national conversation.
All right, so let's talk about that Hunter Biden thing. Did either of you watch it in full?
I'm not insane, so no.
Put me in the negatory category.
Oh, shoot. I had bet a bunch of money that the senator spent 3 hours last night watching that interview.
Well, it depends if he's out on the tractor, the
Even then,
author.
even then.
So for full disclosure, it rained last night, and I wasted 3 hours watching the Mariners getting the shit kicked out of them by the Milwaukee Brewers. So
Senator,
I
are you
should
a
have.
Mariners fan?
Well, they're the close. Technically they're the closest team now.
Yeah.
Maritza will say it's the Twins, but that's because she's from Minnesota. But no, it's
Minnesota
it's
team.
yeah. So I would love to be a full Mariners fan, but they tend to give you hope and then they take it away.
I was just out there, like I hadn't been there in years for stuff. I was out there for non-politics stuff, and I went to T-Mobile Park, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Awesome experience.
Yeah.
And Cal Raleigh hit a home run while we were there, which
Oh,
was
wow.
really, it was like right before the All-Star break. It was anyway, sidebar.
Well, but
unrelated to Hunter Biden.
I'm going to plug though. I mean, we have Paul on our Substack here who says he's from Minnesota. He says go Twins, and I will plug Target Field also, which is an excellent baseball stadium. Okay, so
the last time I cared about the Twins was Kirby Puckett.
oh yeah,
I love Kirby Puckett.
I still have my Homer hanky. Yep, I've got it all.
Kent Burbick at first base.
Yep.
So good.
So good. Okay, so Hunter Biden, like, what does that do? What does that do to this entire conversation? Anything? I mean, I peruse all the headlines every morning. That wasn't in the top. It was still Epstein.
Yeah, I think it's still Epstein. I just, like, for me, it's just so, well, I don't want to swear too much. It's just very, because my mother-in-law
You
sometimes
can
watches.
swear.
Well, I know, but my mother-in-law watches these things that I consume, and she is very anti-me cursing. So
Okay.
even though Hunter Biden said more curse words in that interview, I mean, it's really, in many ways, it's a remarkable feat of swearing what he accomplished in there. I mean, he really went to town. I don't think it's like a dominant story, but like, if let's say, this happened and John Tester was up for re-election in 2026. Do I think the average person in Montana is watching a 3-hour video of a guy? No. Do I think that relitigating the last election that you lost and insisting that basically everyone in the party is an effing idiot other than you and your family for 3+ hours, and everybody was out to get your dad, he would have won if it wasn't for you nasty Democrats? Do I think that is like, if I'm what's his name? Why can't I think of it? John Ossoff in Georgia. He's not going to lose because Hunter Biden gave this interview.
Yeah.
John Ossoff, I'm like, why in the hell are we start talking about the economy? Start talking about immigration. Start literally talking about anything else other than, man, my dad was done dirty by George Clooney and all these idiots. And it's like, dude, even one day of the news cycle having to do with that is just such a waste. When the party brand, and sorry, Carrie Fenolio, my mother-in-law, the party brand's already in the shitter. I mean, like, it's not like you need Hunter Biden to litigate that. Like, the CNN poll that came out last week is 28% favorable to the Democratic Party. You might be fine in the midterms because Trump is also unpopular, but that's not how you're going to win up the presidency. Like, you got to fight for stuff.
There's so much to capitalize on right now. There's so much going on within the Republican Party to capitalize on. So go ahead, Senator.
But I think it's part of it is certainly political nature and somewhat human nature, where you get fired, it's always somebody else's fault. It's not your fault. You lose an election, oh God, it's this person or that person. No candidate ever blames himself for losing an election, for Christ's sakes.
Right.
Wait, who do you blame?
And I blame myself. I mean, I spent too much time doing work for the chairmanship of the Defense Committee and farming and doing the chairmanship of the VA committee that I didn't have to do, and I didn't have those positions, so I could run around the state telling people how wonderful I was. I wasn't able to do that. That's one of the many things that was a problem. But in the end, candidates say, well, shit, I lost by 23 points. It's just somebody else's fault. And now I'm going to run again because I think it's going to be different. And I'm not going to change anything I did. And that's the problem.
It's so true. What are you going to do differently? Nothing. It's the electorate that needs to change, not me.
Yeah, exactly.
This is why I keep saying, like, all these people in power, they just need to go to counseling. They need to deal with their unresolved shit, take some accountability.
Well, I mean, look, in some ways, like I actually, and I felt I sort of understood. I always thought the whole Biden crime family thing was basically bullshit because I do think Hunter Biden 100% monetized the fact that his last name was Biden and his father was Joe Biden.
Yep.
Do I think that Joe Biden, who basically has been in elected office since he was 29 years old, who could have made a zillion more dollars in the private sector, who is not rich, uh, do I think he cooked this whole thing up with his brother and his son? No, I think he was a dad who saw his kid. I mean, by any account, Hunter has struggled for much of his life. He was a dad who saw his son
Bless you.
struggling, bless you, and was trying
Thank
to
you.
do everything that he could to give him a boost up. Like, yeah, hey, okay, Hunter's now his paintings are doing well or whatever. Like, that doesn't excuse what Hunter did, which I think is just basically trying to make money off the old man. But the idea that Joe Biden had cooked up this thing, I mean, Hunter has been troubled. I've known I have covered them for a very long time. Hunter has been troubled forever. It is a classic situation of Beau Biden being the golden child and Hunter being the black sheep or the troubled one. Then Beau Biden dies. Now Hunter feels like he has to take responsibility on. I mean, one of the things that always drew me to politics is these are human beings.
Right.
Like they have the same struggles and and
Well, and
and,
let's
and
not forget
questions and go
the
ahead. Sorry, Marissa.
childhood trauma of losing his mom and
His
sister,
mom and his sister were at a very
like
young age.
childhood trauma is a real thing, and it doesn't matter who you are, it affects people. And I always say this when I look at crazy things that happen, like, well, that's unresolved childhood trauma right there. And, we all live with stuff like that. But
And that's not
I
to
think,
make an excuse for for
right,
all of his behavior. It's just
right.
like, yeah, he's people were like, "Do you think Joe Biden knew that he was doing this interview?" I'm like, honestly, he might have. I think Joe Biden has, he has unwittingly enabled a lot of this stuff by doing exactly what I would do.
That's right.
I have two boys, but they're 16 and 13. Exactly what I would do, which is be like, help them if they're struggling in any way possible, even probably knowing in the back of my mind that wasn't the right thing to get them on the right track. But just feeling like I got to do anything I can. He's enabled it. So I bet he was like, you got to speak your truth, Hunter. And it's like, no, this is not helpful. I don't think it's helpful for Hunter Biden. Does he come off well in that? Like, when I watched a chunk of that interview, I thought to myself, he seems like he's not in great shape. And that's not mentally. That's not I don't know anything about substance stuff. And I hope he's clean. But he just seems like he's in a very bad place mentally. And it's like I never think that it's I don't it made me sad and kind of amazed that he did it.
Yeah, I would say a couple things, and you already said this, Chris, but I don't think people are going to spend a lot of time watching it. But I do think that there's a lot of issues out there that this takes some of the focus, a little
Mhm.
bit of the focus off of, like the tariffs and the big beautiful bill and the loss of due process and the Epstein files and all that stuff. So, um,
Tariffs.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Well,
Well,
tariffs,
and that,
taxes, it's the same thing, you know?
Yeah, what he's doing with the farmers. I mean, there's just
Yeah,
is Maritza, you said this earlier, but it is like the thing is it's such a target-rich environment, right? He is not popular. His numbers on immigration are down. His numbers on handling the economy are down. So to spend even one day dealing with this, and Democrats will have to deal with this, like
yeah.
they're going to get asked, did you see what Hunter Biden said? I mean, they just are. It's just such a waste, and I just
The
don't know
other,
what the point is other than, like, I guess settling scores? I just I
yeah.
don't know.
The other
Feels
thing
very
too is
self-indulgent.
when you talk about like the Biden crime family, the loudest people on the Biden crime family were the family with the last name Trump, who, I mean, look at what we're seeing. How much money did Michael Cohen say that the Trump family has made separately because of, the
Well,
power and influence?
the
Yeah.
whole
It's a
crypto thing deserves I mean, people don't focus on it because they don't really understand crypto. But what they are doing in crypto, I did like this big long deep dive on YouTube about it. It is a straight up scam. Like not crypto generally, but what they're doing. It is pure graft. I mean, it's just there's no. But this is my thing. It's like people always say to me when I talk about Hunter Biden, they're like, "What about Don Jr. and Eric?" I'm like, "Yes, they're clearly profiting from the fact that their dad is president." But didn't Democrats say we're not going to just because
Do
they're
that.
doing
Yeah.
it? Yes, like Joe Biden said, we need to be better. I remember when he ran in 2020, we need to be better. We need to. So it's like just because you want your company in anything to be Don Jr. and Eric, like I don't understand that pushback. Like, oh well,
Yeah.
that makes it okay.
Right. No, yeah, right. Okay, I do want to talk. I know we keep going on and on, but I do want to talk about Stephen Colbert, the media in general, the future of journalism. Like, did you guys catch this thing, this whole bit last night that Colbert did?
No,
I bet John Tester was watching the Mariners. I bet he didn't, or he was
Now
asleep.
I shut the Mariners off for the seventh inning because it was going ugly, and I went to sleep.
So
well,
if
good
you
for you.
missed it,
Again, good life decision.
Yes.
yeah, and for our people on with us who missed it, basically they did this whole bit about like how could this cancellation of Stephen Colbert be financial if the Late Show was #1 in ratings? They made a big joke about the $16 million settlement to Trump, and then they did this whole parody of that Coldplay concert disaster where they did a kiss cam in the crowd, and lots of commenting. I mean, Jimmy Fallon,
John
Seth
Stewart,
Meyers,
John Oliver.
John Oliver, yeah. Anderson Cooper. I mean, it was a really funny thing. And then at the last one, they put a kind of a cartoon of Donald Trump holding the Paramount logo, and then they slipped out of their seats like this viral Coldplay video. But when we talk about what's happening, and we're seeing just this change. I mean, do you think that how much do you attribute Colbert to the Trump administration and even just in general, the future of journalism? Because I'm hearing from my friends around the country who work for outlets all over that they're being told, "Hey, we got to go easy. We can't afford a lawsuit." I'm hearing that that's happening. So what is this all? How does this all play out? And I guess the importance of what we're doing here with this
Yeah,
independent journalism thing, and how do we pivot to this?
I mean,
Sorry, that was there's a lot
no,
of
no.
questions.
I think it is. Two of these things are definitely true. One, linear broadcast television is nowhere near as lucrative as it once was. It's true of. I still remember when the CBS Evening News made this big splash. They hired Katie Couric and they paid her $20 million a year. And I remember some smart media person saying that's the last time one of those places is going to pay that amount of money because they just can't make that money back. It's no longer the cash cow it once was. I think that's true of late night too. Look, in the '90s, Letterman and Leno were like fundamental to the culture. Now it's like, oh yeah, I saw that Jimmy Kimmel thing on TikTok or whatever. It's not as core.
Mhm.
And so I think it is true that the economics probably don't add up. I don't know what they paid Stephen Colbert, but I guarantee you it wasn't $125,000. Do you know what I mean? It definitely was in the 8 to 9 figure range. And I think they probably looked at the long-term projections and were like, yes, okay, it's the best rated of these shows, but none of these shows are particularly well rated, right? Um, so I think it's part that, but I don't think you can separate it from the fact that like Donald Trump has beaten the legacy media into compliance. By the way, the legacy media is not alone in this. He's also beaten the legal community into compliance. I
Right.
mean, one of the I think
Universities.
I right, universities. I think one of the
Yeah.
undertold stories is the fact that all these law firms just totally capitulated. They're like, "Oh, we'll give you $20 million." I mean, it's unbelievable. But so I don't think you can those two things I think are both true. I think it played a part. I don't know, was it 50% financial and 50% why piss Trump off in the middle of a merger and we know he's vengeful? Was it 80-20, one way, 28? I don't know, but I think those things clearly both mattered. On the other thing, like, look, legacy media is not going to save you, people. It's just not. Like, I think anyone who's worked in journalism, Maritza, I know you know this, like, it's always been when it started being a business? When, we stopped basically minting money off of classifieds and sort of the fact that there weren't that many options for people. As soon as the media landscape started to flatten, it became, "Oh, wait a minute, this is a real business." And I think now, like, look, Paramount settling, appalling. I mean, like, there is nothing in that 60 minutes video Oh, they edited a long piece of video to fit it in their time window? I mean, every news organization of all time has done that. I mean, it's unbelievable that they settled. The Disney thing with Stephanopoulos and, same thing. I mean, come on, man. Like, this is clearly, there's no case there. Um, like Jeff Bezos at my former employer, basically saying like, well, we're going to have a certain kind of, the op-ed board is got, or the editorial board is now going to have a very clear lean. Like, these people aren't gonna, they're solving for money, whether it's money for themselves if they own it, or money, for the shareholder price. That's what they're solving for, which means they are not solving for journalism, right? At best, journalism is the second priority. It might be money, 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 then journalism. But like, say this to people. Look, I need people to subscribe to my Substack and pay me and subscribe to my YouTube. Like, I mean, like, I don't go to the bank and say, well, I'm a journalist. You don't need any mortgage payment this month. Like,
Right.
yes, I need money too, but the money that I get is from regular people, right? It's not.
Right.
And
Who
so
wanna support our work. Right.
right. And I make no bones about it. Like, I could have a lot more subscribers if I just said, Trump is the worst every single day, because there's a market for that. Or Trump is the best every single day. I get that. But I choose not to do that. So it's like, yes, of course I need to be financed too, but my finances is all transparent. It's people who support what I do, and I try to be transparent about what I do. These other places, they're businesses. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, CNN laid me off in 2022 because they were going through a merger and they needed to cut. I don't think I did a bad job. I just think they were like, well, we
Right.
need to get rid of money. Why does Chris make this amount of money? Um, these are businesses. They're solving to make money. And solving to make money means that you're going to put the making of the money as your first priority and not the journalism. And I think that's a problem. I think it's why independent media is growing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've got, and I don't want to disagree with you, Chris, because you're a lot smarter than I am.
no,
But
disagree with me.
I think they're 100% intimidated. I think if it had to do with money, they would have renegotiated contracts to try to keep him on the air, rather than saying
Mhm.
we're just gonna bounce him. I think they want to see their merger go through, and I think they saw negative impacts on that. So you're right on that money. And I think the other part is they're just flat scared. They're afraid. And I'm gonna say, from my perspective, they will all go away if they don't do their job, because there's
I
no
know it.
reason to have them.
I
They
know it.
will all go away. The only ones that will survive are the ones that go out and do honest reporting and tell the people the truth. That's going to be it.
Totally agree. It's in a way they're sort of inviting in their own demise.
Yep.
Because the thing we know about Trump is that if you give him some, he's going to ask for more, right? He's not going to be like, "Oh, I'm satisfied with that." He's going to be like, "Oh, that's a mark that I can take more advantage of." I mean, it's always true. It's like, it's the paying of the hostage taker. You know what I mean? Like, well, if you can give him $5,000, he's going to ask for 10,000. 10,000 is going to ask for 100,000. Like,
That's right.
it's a slippery slope, and to me, it's like you just that's why I think you have to. And it's hard when you're like CNN or the Washington Post. It's much easier if it's us. You can be like, look, this is who I am authentically. This is what I think. The senator said this earlier. People are going to disagree with me. That's okay. I always say, if you agree with someone 100% of the time, they're probably trying to sell you something. Like, it's okay to disagree, but you
Yeah.
know who we are and what we're trying to do, and you've have some connection to us, as opposed to like these gigantic. I mean, who owns media companies now? Billionaires, right? Rupert, Bezos, the Sulzbergers. I don't know if they're billionaires, but they're close to all the time. Or giant corporate conglomerates like
Right.
Warner. I don't even know what it's called anymore that owns CNN, but it's like Warner Media Brothers or something. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
it's the classic, like, well, I forget what the company was named on 30 Rock, but it's that same thing. Like, they make toasters and they make journalism. It's like, well, that's a weird you know what I mean? Like, and that's the problem. And I think that's why independent media, I mean, the biggest problem that I have and the biggest struggle is convincing people that you don't need to pay for everyone, but you need to pay for some people who do it the right way, because otherwise, to the senator's point, it won't exist. This is not going to just exist unless you
Right.
support it. Journalism did a terrible job at explaining to people that this is a profession that needs financial support. Like, if you go to your accountant around tax time, you're not like, here's all my receipts And then when he bills you, you don't say like, what the hell?
What's this for?
Service. You're paying for a service. People don't get that with journalism. We've done a poor job of saying like, you need to actually financially invest in this.
And I
It,
think they
it,
take it for granted too. And I think that sorry, Senator, to step on you here, but the scene washing of what is happening to journalism concerns me. The fact that we're not, I have it on my list to talk about, but the Wall Street Journal is now, they can't go they're not in the press pool for this
Yep.
trip overseas. I mean, the Wall Street Journal. And so, and it's barely even in the headlines because of everything else going on where, gosh, you guys remember the Jim Acosta thing when they revoked his press pass. That was huge. That was a huge deal and
Yep.
everyone was outraged, and we're used to this now. We're desensitized to it. Go ahead, Senator.
well, I mean, I would just say the other point is we're talking about news and we're talking about reporting, but ultimately in the end, it's like free speech. If you do not have news media, if you do not have reporters asking hard questions, holding people accountable, it's the end of democracy. It's the end of it.
And we've
Because quite
seen it at the
frankly,
local level.
yep, we're seeing it at the local
I
level. We're
mean,
seeing, and it just tends to, it's just going up the chain now.
I still remember this is like early 2000s. The San Diego Union Tribune did this amazing, a years long investigation into Duke Cunningham, Republican member of Congress, who was just like he had like a golden toilet, just taking like massive bribe. I think he was chair of the Armed Services Committee. I mean, it was just like total. And I think to myself, like, okay, we're about 25 years on from that. Like, could the Union Tribune or the Billings Gazette could they fund that kind of investigation? Do they even have the reporters to do that kind of investigation now? And that's what worries me, because if these elected officials at the state level and then all the way up to the national level, if they don't think anybody is watching, they will push.
Yep,
And the truth of the matter is, more and more and more, there aren't people watching.
that's right. And then when they get caught with their hands in a cookie jar, they just say, "Oh, that's fake news."
Fake news.
Yep. If,
I
if
mean,
there's any news at all.
Listen, this feels like we're
right.
going, like, this feels depressing. And
Yes.
I mean, Cory Booker said we should rename our podcast The Biggest Loser because we were both laid off, and you joined that club too, Chris. So
Oh yeah.
welcome to The Biggest Loser.
Thank
But
you.
let's try to end on a hopeful note. Like, what's the good stuff of, like, what gives you hope in this independent journalism field that we're part of right now? And where do you see that going? Like, let's end hopeful.
I started from 0 subscribers on YouTube and 0 subscribers on Substack. Thank CNN gave me nothing of the email distribution list. They own all of your intellectual property, these big companies. So I started with 0. And I did, after they laid me off, basically like lay face down in my family room for about like a month. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
people try to like act as though it's like on to the next great adventure. I was like, this fucking sucks. Like, I thought this was my great
It
adventure.
was
Your, mo-
awful.
your mother-in-law
Oh
might
God!
put up
I
with
Oh God.
you.
God,
You dropped the F-bomb, man.
I'm like Hunter Biden. I,
But you're
It
right.
does suck,
It
though. It
fucking
does.
sucks.
it
Yeah.
sucks, and I think it's okay to acknowledge it sucks. And so I started from 0. And basically, I've spent $0 on advertising or paying. I don't even know really how to do this, but like paying for supporters and like paying for
Yeah.
followers. I don't know how to do any of that stuff, which I think is good. But like, I'm at like 30 plus thousand on Substack, like 5,000 pay, and 110,000 on YouTube, which makes me think. And again, I am not the guy who's like Donald Trump craps his pants. Like, that's not me. You know what I mean? Like, if it was, I'd probably be at a million on YouTube. But I'm not that guy. And so it does give me some confidence that you can build a sustainable living trying, you're probably not going to get rich, but hopefully you can pay your mortgage and do what you
Pay the
love,
bills.
do what you
Yeah.
love, trying to call balls and strikes as best as you can with the acknowledgement that you're one person, and we're going to disagree. So that's what gets me up in the morning. And, I think it's like what's old is new again. It's all about community and authenticity. I mean, it's just like politics.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, John Tester probably shouldn't have gotten elected in 2006 in that state. I mean, honestly, I covered that race.
It's true.
But he won because people were like, this is just another national Democrat. He won because he was authentically who he was.
Yeah.
That is the key. Like, in some ways, nothing changes. Authenticity to me is still be who you are. If you're gonna fail, at least fail being who you are than trying to be somebody else and then fail anyway. Like, that
I
gives
saw
me some level of hope.
I saw your post about that, and I love that word. I think it's a great word, and it's what people have said to us. I mean, Senator Tester won't admit that people tell him they like his podcast, but I know they do. I know they do. And so they say that to us. They feel like, they're having a conversation with us. We're our real selves. This is who we really are. And that matters to people, especially when there is so much of a facade that we see, whether you're looking at influencers on Instagram or, on TV or whatever. I mean, that matters to people, and having these real conversations where we are real humans all kind of going through this collectively together. I think it's so important.
And just again, I got to go because my phone's about to die. The one thing I'll say about Substack Live is it drains your phone like nobody's business.
That's true.
But legacy media is not going to save you. Do not wait for the Washington Post or CNN or Fox News. It's just not. They are solving, I think, for profit. It's just not. So again, you don't have to support me. I hope you support these two wonderful people.
Thank you.
But you gotta put a little bit of money where your mouth is, right? You gotta vote.
Yeah.
You gotta vote with your wallet at some level and say, these are I want more of this in the world, and I'm willing to spend 5 or 6
Yeah.
or 10 or $100, whatever you can on it. Because if you don't assume it's going to exist in the world. To your point, Maritza. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you all for
Okay, we're gonna let you go, Chris. Tester and I are gonna wrap up here, but thank you so
Okay.
much for joining us.
Thank
Let's do
you.
it again. Have
Take
a
care.
good day.
Anytime. I'm happy to do it. Thank you. See you, Senator.
Chris, thanks for going
We gotta
twice
talk
as
about
long
old
as you.
Montana races. We gotta talk about old Montana
Oh.
races. We're
We
gonna
can
talk
do
some
that.
Greg Gianforte at some point.
We can, we
Oh,
can,
yes.
we can talk about all that shit. Yeah, absolutely. And
All right, my friend, that's a little bit more of a niche podcast. We're gonna do old Montana campaigns.
Ooh, but I mean, that Greg Gianforte race that went national with that whole body slam incident.
I probably don't have as good a Denny Reberg stories as the senator does, but I got good Denny Reberg stories.
we I don't know.
We do too.
Are they for public consumption? That's the
No,
question.
absolutely not. No,
Damn.
like all the best stories, they're not for public consumption. All right, y'all, go.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye, Chris. Oh, that was a good chat. We always go long, sorry. But that means we're having a good conversation. You probably wait, it rained last night. Let's give the people what they want. We want to get some farming content. Tell me about the farm. It rained.
Well, yesterday's high was like 66 degrees
Oh.
in north central Montana. When it was 90 degrees in May and we weren't getting any rain, everybody's going, what the hell's going on? Now it's harvest time where, truthfully, there's only one time a year we don't want rain. That's during harvest. And we got a big rain last week and a few days ago, and then we got another one. Hopefully it'll warm up so we can get some crop in.
So are you
I'm ways
stuck
off. I
inside?
got all spring wheat, but my neighbors are cutting winter wheat, and I know they got to be nervous as hell. What's that?
You're stuck inside all day then, or what? What are you
No,
gonna
no,
do?
no. I'm gonna go out and work on equipment, but it was certainly, I was gonna throw some headers on some combine and swather, but that's gonna hold off because it's too goddamn muddy. So that's okay. That's the way it
Well,
is.
okay. Really quickly, just like when we talk about a House Rules Committee, tell me what throwing a header on a swather means.
Well, so I've got a hay header on my swapper right now, and I've got a grain header that I can swap out and put on, so I can.
But what does a header mean? What does that do? I don't know what that
That
means.
it cuts off the crud. It's got a sickle,
Okay.
which a bunch of
Oh, yeah.
triangular knives that go back and forth. Let me go like this, back and forth, and it's got a reel, and then it's got belts in this case that bring the grain to the middle and put it in a windrow about 4 feet wide. And
Okay.
then you can you can speed up harvest because it'll dry out and then you can pick it up if it doesn't rain. If it's in a windrow and it rains, then it also causes a lot of problems because your grain can start sprouting in the head, and then it's
Ooh.
worth cattle feed. It's not worth bread. It's not for making bread anymore. It's pretty much cow feed. So
Okay. All right. Well,
which means the value is about probably a third of what it is, maybe
oh,
half what it would normally be. So it's a pretty big hit. But yeah, so that's where it is. And it used to you used to not be able to do this without taking a day. Now you can swap out headers literally within
Mm.
half an hour. So
Oh,
which is
well, that's good.
which, which is pretty easy. So yeah, it's all good.
Well, what do you have any takeaways from that chat with Chris?
Well, I mean, look, I mean, obviously been in the business a while and he understands what's going on. I mean, I don't disagree with anything he had to say on the Epstein stuff and where it's headed. I don't think it goes away. I think it's going to be here in a month, 6 weeks until they release the files. And I don't know exactly why. I mean, we've had this a lot of guests on. We've asked, why are they so nervous about it? I think, well, Cohen said it's because his donors are on that in that list, and he doesn't want to release his
Mhm.
donors. Others will say it's because Trump has, there's information about Trump on that list that they don't want listed. I don't know, but what the hell? I mean, the truth will set you free. Be a little transparent and release it. And he released a bunch of additional MLK files to take
Yeah,
attention
that's
off of
right.
it. I mean, what the hell? I mean, it's kind of crazy. And
And
as far
historians
as
say
the
there's really not, like, anything in there that's
no,
groundbreaking.
and I also tell you, as far as traditional media goes, I'll be 69 years old here in another month. In fact, and a little less than a month. Today's the 22nd, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
wait, when's your birthday? I should know this.
I shouldn't tell you this, but yeah, it's the 21st August. But at any rate,
Okay.
and so it's hard for me to think that the traditional media is gonna go away, or it's gonna lose its value. But shit, I didn't know what a Substack was till a couple months ago. So what the hell? I mean,
And look at us now.
yeah,
Look
look
at
at you
us
now.
now.
You know, so
We didn't even talk about either. I mean, a friend of the show here, your friend, Senator Dick Durbin, and
yeah,
his letter to the DOJ basically
yeah,
saying, "Hey, we're hearing that the attorney general's pressuring the FBI to put 1,000 employees on this to basically look at under 1,000 pieces of information, look like to flag any mention of Trump." I mean,
yeah. So look, I mean, this goes back to everything that Congress has not done in the last 6 months, and is why we're not 7 or 8 months now, and it's why I've been on a tirade about Congress waking up and doing their job and doing some investigations and holding some hearings about what the hell's going on in our democracy. And I'm going to tell you, I think that's the difference between Democrats and Republicans right now. If this was a Democratic president doing this, Democrats would have been asking for their head. I'm telling you, they would want to know what the hell's going on, because long term, this has negative effects on everybody within the party if the truth comes out. Now, they might think, well, we're going to make it so the truth never, ever, ever comes out. And the truth is, I don't know what the truth is because Congress isn't doing any hearings on it. And so they need to do hearings on what DOJ is doing, what ICE is doing, what Homeland Security is doing, what's going on with the tariffs. I mean, the list is long. It is long. And we've seen time and time again where the president says one thing and then does the exact opposite when it comes to implementation. So Congress needs to do something, for Christ's sakes. I mean, they just need to do their job. They're not a co-equal branch of government anymore. In fact, they're not even a branch of the government anymore. All they do is rubber stamp everything the executive wants, and that is not what the Constitution had in mind. So that's the point here. Not to go on another tirade like I do every damn podcast, but it's the truth. They need to
I
do their
like your tirades. I think people like your tirades too. We like
no,
a fired up John Tester. I will say, before I ask about your hat, I will say that Marjorie Taylor Greene in her post yesterday said, "Dangling bits of red meat no longer satisfies." I mean, that to me, like, I think that's a difference in previous hot topics when she
well,
says
it
something like
it
that.
it it, it depends on where she goes from here.
Right.
Because we've seen so many kind of stand up and say, "Well, this is just wrong, and we're going to stop this," and then a week later, you never know what's going on. I mean,
Yeah.
take a look at
Yeah.
Joni Ernst, the Secretary of Defense. This guy's horrible. I'm never going to vote for him. And what, 3 hours later, it was, yeah, voting for him. So, we've seen this happen over and over and over again. But, it's the way it is. I don't, until Congress steps up and does what their people elected them to do, until people start putting pressure on Congress so that they do what people elect them to do, we're going to have this dysfunctionality that is very, very dangerous.
Okay, let's talk about what people want to hear about, and that's your hat. Are you wearing a Bears hat
Yeah, I am. Yeah. You want to know why?
because you hate Minnesota?
No, no. But that's not a bad reason. I don't hate Minnesota. It's
It's not a Green Bay hat.
different in Montana. So I'll wear Green Bay next week. So I've got a whole bunch of hats in there in bags, and I've I've got a bunch scattered around that are freelance hats that I grab, and this is one of the ones I didn't
You
think
just
of.
grabbed it.
So it's the way it is. So,
You have no really great reason to wear a Bears hat other than to
no,
antagonize your
my
Minnesota viewers.
my chief of staff, old chief of staff, and I emphasize old, was a Bears fan, and it was a miserable thing to do. It's rooting for the Bears is hard, but that's what he does, and that's what. So this is maybe a dig at him. I don't know.
Okay. All right. We'll take it. We want to just say thank you so much to Chris Cillizza for joining us today. Just a good conversation. We are working on some specialty episodes for you, kind of on topics. We're going to talk about some defense stuff. We're going to talk about some Medicaid cut stuff. So we are working on that. We would love to hear from you if you have somebody you want to hear us chat with. Send us an email, groundedpcast@gmail.com. Of course, you can find us right here on Substack, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube. We just want to say thank you so much to everyone who supports not only us here, but all of the independent journalists trying to make a go at this and provide information in these times that are just chaotic. And we appreciate you supporting everybody working to try to shed light on that. We want to thank our guest again. We want to thank Pearl Jam for letting us use their music. We want to thank Senator John Tester for putting on a Bears hat and joining us instead of being out in the field, putting
Yeah,
headers on your swather. Did I get that right?
yeah, close enough.
All right, that's it. I'm done.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Down we go.